number 2. All right, the crossover continues. My number 2. Whereas I agree and think that the Terminator is a unrelenting, evil, horrible villain from the future that you cannot stop because it is the 80s and I don't have technology to defeat you. I thought that Robert Patrick as T-1000 was the only way to one-up that villain. The only way. You take something that's an unstoppable force and you're like, oh, okay, well, it can look like anybody and it can have any weapon and it can sound like anybody and it wants to kill you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that to me was such a frightening villain. And, like, the way that they defeated him, like, well, the way that they defeated both Terminators in the original 2 movies are, like, so happenstance. Like, you just happen to be in, like, the right area at the right time, like, to defeat this thing. But, like, you know, whatever. It's a horror movie. I get it. It's fine. But
it is a horror movie. Oh, my God. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
Sci-fi horror.
Right, yeah, I mean. It's classy. But the villain in T-1000 I thought was so great. And if I thought that Joker was great and in what he did to break the hero's sort of code and ethics, these characters, they don't have the luxury to have that code or ethics around a Terminator. It's anything I can do to survive. Like, because this thing is very dangerous and it is killing almost everybody in its wake. And that's pretty much what's the frightening thing about it is because, like, before he reaches John Connor, like every human you see this thing with, is dead because of it. You know what I mean? Like, every human you see him come across, he kills him. You know what I mean? And then, like, he gets there, and it's like, okay, you know what's up. Like, you know, it's just a frightening villain, an unrelenting force. And this villain is the reason why the No Country for Old Men villain is on my honorable mentions. Because he's the same type of villain that he is, like I said earlier. He's a Terminator type of villain, like a realistic kind of Terminator type of villain he is. I just feel like T-1000 does it better, so that's why he made it on my list anyway. Yeah.
Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I love how he plays off the Arnold. It gave him an excuse to bring Arnold back for the second one, because they needed someone, or a character who could take on something that advanced, because if the humans had to take him on, they would be dead.
Right.
So I definitely agree, though. Of course, Arnold's Terminator is still my favorite.
I just think that Terminator, the T-1000, is a lot more practical than the T-800. I mean, it's evolving, right? So the T-800, it's an infiltrator. Whereas the T-1000 is more advanced or more of a camouflage. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, they're both infiltrators, but the T-1000 is more practical because it can become anything, not just anyone. Right? It became the floor, right?
You're right.
Yeah, so that's why I think that's why I like it more. They even did that again in the last Terminator movie. Did any of you see the last one, Dark Fate? So there were two Terminators in one. Where he was both the liquid
he had a metal frame.
Yeah. What did you think about little mini review of Dark Fate? What did you think, Sarah, about Dark Fate?
I enjoyed Dark Fate. It felt like a fan film.
Yes.
A lot of parts of it.
Yes.
But it didn't bother me because that's kind of what I expected. It's obviously not at the level of Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, but I was okay with it. I had fun.
Did you see it, CJ?
I did not see it.
Right, so I don't think after 1 and 2, like to me, only 1 and 2, 3 is fun. I don't need it. It's fun. That was just a fun action movie. 4, it felt like it was trying to be deeper than it really was. 5 was Genesis with the Y, right, with Emilia Clarke and Matt Smith.
Is that the one where he flips the bus on the Golden Gate Bridge?
I think so. It's Emilia Clarke, right, as Sarah Connor?
Yeah, Sarah Connor.
So Emilia Clarke was awesome in that. It's just, again, the story was like, you can't be 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are like, and to me, that's 1 and 2, and that's it. You're done. Mm-hmm. But all right, so that is, okay. Anything else before we move on to Sarah's number 2? No? All right, Sarah?
All right, so my number 2, of course, I love characters that are conflicted. They might be good, they might be bad. So my number 2 is Loki from the MCU.
Ooh.
Because I don't think he's necessarily good. We might find out more when the Loki TV show comes out, but I think he always has the number one in mind, and if his desires line up with yours, he'll help you out. But he's charming too. I think that's like a charming villain, which I like. So I put him at number 2.
He's an honorable mention for me because he was going to be out there, but I'm like, do I like him that much? No. So he's an honorable mention for me. CJ.
I love Loki. And, well, let me preface that by saying I love the Loki in the MCU. Comic Loki is way more like mustache twirly.
Yes.
But MCU Loki is like a empathetic villain. You know what I mean? He's somebody that we've seen grow. Actually, you know what I mean? Which isn't something you typically get from a villain character. But it's a character we have seen grow. It's a character we can tell their sort of motivations and their goals for the most part. And he's a very likable character. You know what I mean? Like, even though he shows himself to be a threat, he is a villain. You know what I mean? Like, he is a villain, but he's such a likable character. You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine now, like, watching a Thor movie without him, to be honest. Like,
But he's kind of become a hero now, hasn't he? Like, to me, in the MCU, he's become not anti-hero, but I guess just a straight up hero, right?
I wouldn't say he's a hero. He's like Sarah was saying earlier. Like, if your goals are similar, like, he's your boy. You know what I mean? Like, but beyond that, no. You know what I mean? Like, he's just trying to get what he's trying to get.
All right, cool. I mean, because when didn't they convince him to help him? Because he was gonna. Yeah, no, you're right. You're both right, as always. All right. Anything else before we move on to my number 2? No? Okay. So mine is... So, everyone knows I'm a huge X-Men fan, and this is my favorite villain ever. And it was my first exposure to him before the comics. It is Ian McKellen's Magneto. Just because he is such, again, like Sir Anthony Hopkins, and so charming, so eloquent. And he is the first time I've ever agreed with his mission of like, or not agreed, but understood of his plight of, we need to survive.
To make everyone a mutant?
What's up? What did you say?
To make everyone a mutant?
No, not but to understand why he's doing things, like what his mission is because I've seen it before. We're different. We're gonna be in camps. No, and the fact that he's a Holocaust survivor, to me, adds to that depth. I'm like, he's. CJ and I've talked about this before, and this is old, but I remember seeing this when we were in high school, film school. Like, Professor X is Martin Luther King, and Magneto is Malcolm X, and so they want the same goal, but through different means, right? And so that's why I was like, I have always understood and maybe I have cheered for Magneto a couple times. I'm like, yeah, get those human racist bastards. But yeah, that's my number 2, Magneto. Ian McKellen Magneto, not the other one. Although he's good too, but I prefer Ian McKellen Magneto.
I would agree. Magneto is always one of my favorite villains. Period. He's like one of the only like cool villains in Marvel. Like in their comics. Like, I love Marvel. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Marvel fan, but like, I mean, like, there only a couple of their heroes have cool villains. You know what I mean? The rest of them are just like, who cares who you're fighting right now? But freaking Magneto is great, and I love him because of that. He is another one of those empathetic villains. Like you said, like, here's a villain where I completely understand why he's doing what he's doing. And if I were in his situation, I'd probably do the same thing. And if I were in his universe, I'd probably be following him, to be honest. Like, if I was a mutant and the world was like it is in the X-Men, and I heard these two messages, like, bro, I would say, dude,
Frack.
Xavier, right? Like, Magneto, like, he has my best interest at heart right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these humans are all pissed. They're all the same. I'm gonna rise above. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna make the decision. But he's a great, and I think that's what makes him a great villain. He is on my honorable mention list as well, and he's on my honorable mention list for X2, X United, specifically because how he shows it, because he shows himself to be a villain. Like you were just saying, we're talking about how Magneto, his reasoning, his mission is something that's believable. It's something that you could see yourself agreeing with. But he's on my list for X2 because in X2, to me, that shows like, okay, yes, you have a good mission, but you're also a bad dude.
Yes.
And I feel like this is perfectly exemplified in the climax of X2. The bad guy, William Stryker, is forcing Professor X to kill all the mutants.
Right.
Like, he's in Cerebro. He's forcing him to kill all the mutants. And, like, they get in there and they stop him. And Magneto comes in there because he's helping them. They have to join together, you know what I mean? Like, before they were enemies. But now they have to join together. And now Magneto's helping him. But after they stop them from killing all the mutants, Magneto's like, we should kill all the humans instead. And so he changes the machine, leaves Professor X trapped in there to force him to kill all the humans. And that moment is like, oh, okay. Like, yes, his motivations are sound, but he's a villain through and through. Like, this dude is a bad dude. Like, he didn't have to do that. He's choosing to do this, like, to wipe them out right here. You know what I mean? And that's what, like, makes him a villain, you know?
Thoughts, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like Magneto. I think he's really cool. He has a really cool superpower, too. And again, like, you understand where he's coming from because he has been through the Holocaust and discrimination, and he just has a more extreme way of getting his views across. I do wish that in some of the X-Men movies there has been something with Asteroid M, because I think it's really cool that he just has like a space station outside of Earth, but they've never have done anything with that. I don't know how they would do it without it being hokey. But...
Have we seen that in the cartoons? I think we have we? Like either Evolution or...
Yeah, but not in any of the...
Live actions?
The movies, the Hollywood movies, which I think it'd be so funny if suddenly he's like, come visit my asteroid.
I mean, if they do that, they gotta do Utopia then at least, right? All right. So that is my number 2, Cool Cats and Kittens. TJ, your honorable mentions.
All right. I'll just say a few. Because some of them we even went over already. But I'll mention some that are like, I had like Captain Barbossa of Pirates of the Caribbean one. I loved his villain. I thought he had a great motivation. They just wanted to be normal again. You know what I mean? Like, also they're pirates, and you know who doesn't love ghost skeleton pirates? But
you're in a ghost story.
For the same reason that you would love, Nazi, Nazi anything, you know what I mean? Like, freaking skeleton pirate, you know. Also, a movie that I used to love as a kid, Face Off.
Oh, I used to love.
Fan. I also love John Woo movies, and freaking Castor Troy, the villain of Face Off, played by Nicolas Cage and John Travolta, is just a crazy, like, kind of like drug dealer, bad guy dude, but like, he's played wonderfully by both actors, and it's such a memorable performance, and I love that movie still to this day, and he's a memorable villain to me. Renee, I know you love that line from that movie.
Peach, I could eat a peach for hours. I love it. No, it took me so.
That's what I was talking about, but yes, that line. Yes,
what?
The one you were talking about it the other day. What did he?
No more drugs for that man.
Yes, those 2 lines are my favorite line. The peach one, you know, it took me to figure out what that was about. It took me to be like, oh, that's about. Yeah.
And I have to Debo from Friday. He almost made it on my list. I think he's such a great villain just because he's just a bastard. You know what I mean? Like, and that's all he is. He just comes around the neighborhood, steals people's stuff, like just punks people. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like the villain that the movie needs. You know what I mean? Like, he's like a comical Terminator. And then the last villain I'm gonna mention is Darth Vader. He didn't make my list. But I do think he helped me construct my list. When I thought of what a perfect movie villain is, I thought back to Darth Vader. So everybody on my list is basically on there because I felt like they're better at what they did than Darth Vader was. So Darth Vader was like just the baseline for my list. All right,
Sarah, you're
my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So I have to do a shout out to my horror villains of Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers because I love them. Like, if you watch the original Jason movies, he doesn't run after his victims. They run through the woods, and he waits for them to trip and fall, and then catches up to them and, like, kills them. So if they could just run without falling, they would get away. But yeah, it's just so great to have these like iconic horror characters. And then my other honorable mention is Silva, who is Javier Bardem's character from Skyfall. I don't know if you guys remember him. Like, he had like his face was he had taken cyanide to try and kill himself, and it hadn't worked. And I know he was just so delightful. In that movie, and the way that him and Daniel Craig played off each other, I loved the two of them together. So those were my honorable mentions.
Okay. All right. So CJ, you're number one.
All right. My number one is Thanos.
Thanos. Interesting.
It's Thanos. My number one is Thanos. I tried hard to be better than the MCU has made me, but I am not. Thanos is my number one cinematic movie villain of all time, and specifically, Infinity War Thanos. My top three list here, like, it kind of progresses in a way. You know what I mean? Like, Joker was the one who brought Batman's code down to the ground. You know what I mean? Right. Like. And then my number two is T-1000. Like, he's just an unstoppable force. But they do manage to defeat him. Thanos in Infinity War, he wins. Like, he does one thing that most villains, especially in a big franchise, can't do. And that's win. That's defeat the good guys. Thanos, for all intents and purposes, defeats the good guys in a way that the only way they could beat him is with the Deus Ex Machina machine. You know what I mean? Like, they had to freaking break movie logic just to defeat the bad guy in Endgame. So, like he won. They left it at that. It wasn't like to be continued, though it was.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like to be continued. The movie was over. Like, he defeated him. He snapped and killed half the universe. Just feet alone, like that, like, you know, that puts him above like most movie villains. You know what I mean? I don't know who you dwarf that. Maybe the dude from freaking Flash Gordon or something. I don't know, but freaking just feet alone, this dude wipes out half the universe, all life. But beyond that, he had a reason that was at least understandable, and he showed himself to not only be a mental but a physical threat to every hero in the movie that faced him, as well as a mental threat because he thwarted their plans as well. He had awesome lines. He's just he gave great villain.
Your thoughts, Sarah?
I mean, I like Thanos. Like, I always go back and forth between him being too overpowered, and then not powerful enough. Like, I think without the Infinity Stones, he would not be powerful enough to take on the whole MCU.
Right.
Like, team of superheroes. So it's kind of like he's taking on a super force, but he's only able to do it because he has these stones that really make him like able to do it. I do like that he's like trying to fight global warming. Like I like his mission actually. Like so you kind of get conflicted. Like I watched Infinity War. I'm like, oh great! Now if we could have that happen in real life, traffic on 101 would be so much better. But like it's not like a sustainable mission. It's like Magneto. Like you understand his goal, but the means to get it are not
They're not
what
justifiable.
we should be doing. Yeah, but I definitely like him. I you know, he has. I wish he was a little more evil sometimes too, but
I believe the snap for nowadays would be called coronavirus.
no.
What? No, too real? Too soon? Not soon
Yeah,
enough?
people are dying. So.
Yeah, I know. I will take it back. All right. What's your number one, Sarah?
My number one is actually Darth Vader, of course. Like I had to bring it back to Star Wars. I love him because he is so like physically destroyed. Like he's like on a breathing machine. Like he has no hair. Like if you didn't have the suit, he'd be dead. Like, but he's still like this very ominous presence, especially among the people that work for him. Like they're obviously like terrified of him because he could just kill them with his mind. And again, I like villains that are conflicted. So at the end, he does something good to save his son, and I I I like that, like the ability to change over time in a villain. But yeah, I just he's like one of my original movie villains growing up on the Star Wars movies. So
CJ, thoughts on Sarah's pick?
Well, I mean, you heard me on my honorable mention. I think that Darth Vader is close to like a example of a perfect villain. That is pretty close to an example of a perfect villain. You know what I mean? You have a character who stands in opposition. He's simple. It's simple. You know what I mean? Like he's wearing all black. He's like his blade is red. You know what I mean? Like he's a it's like, what is he? What does he need to be? Okay, he's a bad dude. He's the leader of all these other bad dudes, and he can do cool things. He's really talented, and like that's all you need to know right now. You know what I mean? That's movie one. That's all you need to know right now. Like, and he's very effective, and it was very effective. You know what I mean? And he has a breathing issue that makes him scary to be around too. You know what I mean? Because that's just easy. You're just gonna be okay, just standing around someone who's breathing like that. No. It's like, it's going to be freaking. Imagine if your boss was standing behind you, on the computer, and it just sounds like that. And you're just like, okay, like, dude, like, am I doing something wrong? Can I go to the bathroom? Anything? Can I just get out of this situation right now? It's awkward.
All right. Darth Vader's, you know me, I'm more Star Trek than Star Wars fan. Darth Vader's, I didn't learn to appreciate Darth Vader until later in life. But to me, and lately, this is like I thought he was a villain until the prequels came out. I'm like, but is he a villain then? Because we see him as Anakin Skywalker. So does this add to his story? You know, like so he's really more of a sad protagonist. I don't know if I fully now. If it was just like I don't know if I make it so. If it was just the original three movies, I'm like he's a villain who redeemed himself a little bit. But now with the prequels, I'm like, is he a villain?
I don't admit to ever having seen the prequels. I refuse.
CJ?
Yes, he's a villain.
All right.
Like I said, he's wearing black, and his sword is red, and he chokes a guy with his mind, and he blows up a planet. All right.
I mean, I prefer the prequels than the new trilogy that came out these past 5 years.
No, that's the wrong choice.
I think yeah.
You chose poorly.
All right. So Sarah's got Darth Vader. So my number one is, and I've told you about this guy because this is one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. Was The Mask of Zorro, and my favorite villain in that movie. I was just so awed by that actor, and I didn't know performance, but Captain Love in The Mask of Zorro. Did any of you see that movie?
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
saw. I mean, one of the ones I watched growing up. I don't really remember the bad guy. I mostly just remember Antonio Banderas like jumping around in like his outfit.
So, because I was watching it again because my grandma was in town and we put it on. I'm like, I put it on Netflix in Spanish, and I'm like, this is a good villain. This is a really really good villain. He's an American soldier. For some reason, he's in Mexican California, fighting with the government. They never explained that, but it's like he's trying to make a name for himself, and he's hunting down Antonio Banderas' character and his brother, and they're famous like thieves or whatever. And he makes it personal, like, and he makes it very very personal between Antonio Banderas' character and himself, to the point when there's a scene in the movie where they come back from where they find these gold that they're gonna buy California from the Mexican army, Mexican government. He goes, "You're Maurice's brother, right? Aren't you?" And he takes out a head. It was in the jar. He goes, "That's your brother, right?" And you can just see the face of hatred. They're both giving each other. I'm like, dude, this guy gives great villain, and he's also the actor who plays Reverse Flash in in the real Eobard Thawne in Flash. But yeah, no, that I think in the fact that he makes it personal to me, I've always loved that dynamic between villains and heroes. Is that or protagonists and antagonists is that if it's personal, if it's something that something that they both have against each other, to me it's a lot stronger. And I really really love that in the Mask of Zorro. Is that you wanted to talk about? You talk about on this one or the next one?
Let's do it on this one,
Right.
maybe. I don't know. I just wanted to, last time we did suggestions for what people can watch while they're in lockdown or shelter in place. And I just want to say, if you are not watching Tiger King, there is a hole in your life that you need to fill with Tiger King, because it is amazing. I'm like rationing it, so I've only seen through episode 4. And it is everything that people are talking about and amazing. So if you haven't been watching it, Tiger King.
I finished it after we talked. Like 2 days later after you and I talked with Media Center, I finished that show. It is really really good. Not good. Entertaining.
It's funny.
It's funny. It's entertaining because those people are
Frack.
horrible to one another. And then Joe Exotic, and then his straight gay men husbands is
his 2 husbands. I don't like Carol Baskin though. I find her fascinating.
You like her or don't like her?
Well, I hate her. Like, I would not want to be friends with her or ever hang out with her, but I like watching her on television. So
it's fun. It's interesting to say the least. CJ, what do you know about the Tiger King?
Just beyond what you guys have been saying, I don't know much. I haven't watched it. It's on my queue or whatever, but I have not.
All right, what do you recommend for the people to watch?
My recommendation is it's on Amazon Prime for those of you who have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Night Manager.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it was a miniseries. It was on AMC a while ago, maybe like half a decade ago or something, starring Loki, Tom Hiddleston, as a dude. It's a miniseries, and it's excellent. First of all, I like Tom Hiddleston. I think he's a good actor. But it's basically for those of you who are into a bit of espionage, it's kind of like a spy thriller. It's about a guy who was the night manager at some hotel in some country. I don't know. I'm American. I don't pay attention to that shit. But, he's like the manager of this hotel. They get caught up there, but they're in sort of like a war-torn kind of an area. And this chick comes. He ends up getting a good rapport with her, but she was caught up in something nefarious that he wants to kind of help her out of it. This leads to one thing leads to another. Something bad happens, and he moves on. Like 5 years later, somebody, based on what happens that night, 5 years later, somebody in a government position offers him a job to take down like a known terrorist in the world. Based on whatever happened that night, he is the only person that like could believably infiltrate this group. So this guy who basically was just a hotel manager, they asked him to kind of spy on and try basically to kind of stop this terrorist nefarious plan, whatever it might be. The terrorist played by Hugh Laurie, Dr. House. And they both give great performances. It's a great show. It's an excellent show. I think it's like, I don't know, like 6 to 8 episodes long or something like that. But
I think it's a one-off, right? Like it's a one and done kind of series, like a mini movie.
Yeah. It's just it's based on a novel.
Yeah, I remember wanting to see it, and I just never got to see it. All right, so Sarah, you got Tiger King. CAD's got the Night Manager. You just a minute. So mine's also an old one, 10 years ago, and it's on the Netflix. If you're listening, Netflix, pick us up. I'm watching Community because that show is amazing and it's hella meta and it's really fun, and I recommend everyone watch that right now. It is really, 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 really funny. At least the first 3 seasons. Then 4 and 5 were like, and then 6 I didn't watch 6. Yeah, those are our recommendations: Tiger King, Night Manager, Community. Alrighty. Well, that's it for this episode. Join us next time. Hope you had fun. If you agree or don't agree with our villain listing, let us know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Bye.